Okay, then second thing is like you know uh, you know they might give you an example like, okay, I want to create a box, okay, and I want to use this across some of my divs. Okay, I have like two or three types of divs in my page, but I want to use this blue box across some of my divs. What is the way to do that? Okay, then they might ask you like, okay, how do I make sure that my CSS that I have designed, okay, that is being covered across multiple pages. So let's say I have two or three pages, okay, working with each other, okay, and I want all the headers of these pages look the same. Okay, how do I make sure that happens? Okay, so these are very basic questions that your interview is looking to understand, that you know the basics of why CSS came into existence, why usually people use CSS, and different types of CSS. Okay, then comes your, the HTML portion. So in the HTML portion, one thing that you should do is basically, look at the different tags. Okay, the interviewer might ask you like, okay, what does this particular tag do? Okay, and you have to explain that, okay, this particular tag is used for this, let's say tag p or tag div. Okay, and what is this? Okay, the interviewer says that, okay, I have this particular tag. Okay, is this correct? Okay, you have to know that, okay, some tags allow you the front slash, so that it means that you don't have to close it explicitly. Okay, so these are trick questions that you should be looking out for. Okay, then the second thing is basically the HTML5, okay, components. Okay, then because a lot of things has changed in HTML5, so you should be aware of the different components that came in from HTML to HTML5. Okay, and then in the HTML, they might ask you like, okay, how do I adjust the page? What are the different or let's say I want to include JavaScript. Okay, where in which section do I include? Okay, how do I break up the page? How do I do the UI justification on the page? Okay, like for example, I want all my text to be in blue. Okay, how do I do that? Okay, all of that should be covered in the HTML section. Then comes your JavaScript portion. Okay, so in the JavaScript portion also again there can be multiple questions. Okay, so in JavaScript, like, okay, what is the use of JavaScript? Okay, why can't you use plain CSS and HTML? Okay, what does JavaScript allow us to do? Okay, or the advantages. Okay, so one of the very common question or the trick question will be your client processing. Okay, so here the the um, interviewer will give you a scenario like, okay, you are working on a particular computer or on a browser, and let's say you're trying to log into a particular site. Okay, that site is interacting with a server. Okay, okay. Now you are trying to log in. Okay, and JavaScript is using and it is taking like a long time to connect to the server. What is one validation that you can do? Okay, so you can say like, yeah, if the username is an email, I will check that the username must contain at the rate um, the symbol. Okay, that is something that I can do with JavaScript. Okay, so what this advantage will give you is it is doing the client side processing. Okay, so that means the server will not be overloaded, or you save this entire trip. Okay, so your validation will be instantaneous. Okay, so take examples, as simple and as basic like this. Okay, then the uh, interview might also ask like, can JavaScript be used to connect to outside APIs? We should be prepared to answer that. Okay, and have some answers ready as well. Okay. Then they will ask like some common examples like, okay, how would you build a one page application, or how would you build an application which has which has some information, like for example, if you are building a dashboard. Okay, dashboard, or you are building a form based UI. Okay, or let's say interactive. Okay, all of these are different types of web pages that you can design. Dashboard will basically give you the uh, you know uh, data and metrics, right? So during the corona period, we all saw that even government of India launched a dashboard where we could see for each and every state what is the corona count, how many people recovered, how many people died. Okay, so those are dashboard scenarios. Here, you are not going to be able to give explicit inputs to the page. Rather, you are taking a lot of data and data is being consolidated. Okay, then you have the form and UI where you are basically doing a survey or giving some input, a registration form. Okay, okay, these are common examples. Okay, then interactive, like for example, you are chatting. Okay, or you are posting in social media. Okay, so all of these can be common examples of usage of the different interactive or the different use cases. Okay. So I think at your level, it should be okay to just make sure that you understand the basics, and once you get more familiar with any of these particular sections, then you can go for the advanced topic. But make sure that you are able to at least address the basic question, when to use what. Okay, so you should be able to understand that, should I use HTML, should I use JavaScript, should I use CSS in particular scenario. So the interviewer is going to try and understand that you have that basic understanding or not. Okay, okay. So moving forward. Okay, now the other portion that the interviewer will try to grill you on is basically the backend. Okay, backend means, so basically again, we'll take the same example again. Nitin, you wanted to say something? Okay. So, so you are the user. Okay. Let's say you are trying to look for some data. Okay. So you are interacting to your browser. Okay. And that browser is running an HTML page of some sort. Okay. And that page is interacting with a server, right? Okay. That server is hosting something called, your API. Okay. So these APIs are, basically the backbone of your, your entire system. Okay. So it could be like, let's say, for example, you are trying to generate an order in Amazon. Okay. They will have the orders API. Okay. Under this, they will have get order. They will probably have, add order. They might have add orders. They might have, actually, this is probably not the thing. Okay, let's move that. They might up, have update orders. Okay. So every time you do an operation over here, okay, your front end will try to use any of these APIs to make sure that the data is updated in the system, and then the API will take care of storing this in a database. Okay, so that's how your backend works. Okay, so I believe on the backend side, you all of you have gone through your Spring Boot, right? So in Spring Boot, we'll focus on Spring Boot for now. Right? So in Spring Boot, let's say, you have, basically, the different components, right? So first and foremost, why Spring Boot? Okay. Then the second question is, um, you know, advantages to a developer with Spring Boot. Okay. Then another popular question is Spring MVC versus Spring Boot. Okay. Then the second scenario is like, you know, what are APIs, what forms are available. Okay. Um, we might ask you also on, are you familiar with REST API? It is one of the most popular API protocols out there. Okay, so at least if you don't know about the other ones, you should know about the REST API. Okay, what are its advantages? Okay, what are the popular use cases? Okay, then what are the different components? Just as I said, like REST API will have get, put, patch, delete, etc. Okay, so these are the different operations that are possible in your REST API. Okay, so go through that. Okay, then the second thing is basically in Spring or in Spring Boot rather, mechanism to connect with database. Okay, what is the way you can connect with the database? Okay, so this kind of questions will come. Okay, there might be additional questions, and mostly you will find some question at least on the annotation, because a big part of Spring Boot is using annotation. Okay? So make sure that you understand at least most of the common annotation. What is at the rate Spring Boot, at the rate get mapping. Okay, the JPA annotations. Okay, so all of these things will be needed to answer or address any of the Spring Boot related question. Okay, so try keeping yourself with some of handy with some of these answers. Okay, or you go over the basics why each of them are being used, so that let's say you have an interview out coming in the next 2 days, you at least have a particular way to go through the entire sheet and find out exactly which points that you need to understand. If there's any particular scenario that you don't understand, you go back and find out, okay, why should I use Spring Boot versus MVC, or how should I generate, or if somebody is giving me a service, how should I generate the different types of APIs, what are the different types of calls that should be there. Okay, read, look for some sample videos as well. Okay, then I believe the next item will be on your database. Okay, so a common question would be on the databases type. Okay, so if the interviewer is asking like, okay, what are the different types of databases that are found today? Okay, so there are two types of databases that are basically found today. Okay, one is basically RDBMS, and the other one is NoSQL. Okay. Again, in NoSQL, you will have multiple variations, but no need to worry about that. That is going to be probably not asked. Okay. But what you need to understand is why do we need to understand? Why do we need to have two different types of databases? Okay. What are their different advantages? Like for example, if you choose an RDBMS database, you get the ACID properties. Okay, you get you can vertically scale it. Okay, in NoSQL you may or may not get the ACID properties. It is not a strong point, but it is very fast. Okay, and it can scale. Like for example, you started with, let's say, your application started with 100 users. Okay, but within 2 years or 3 years, just like Facebook, you have billions of users using your application. Okay, then you need around petabytes of data that needs to be stored. Okay, so that scaling can be very well handled with NoSQL. Even the scaling can be handled with RDBMS, but scaling is costly in RDBMS. Okay, then another question would be like, give me an example of an RDBMS. Okay, very popular question. MySQL, Oracle. Okay, similarly, for NoSQL, you can say Mongo. Okay, then you can say DynamoDB. This is an this is a product from Amazon. Okay, you can also say Cassandra. Okay, so all of these are different types of databases for NoSQLs. Okay, and then there is a third category, I would say, which can fall in the NoSQL section as well, but it is also good to mention that, okay, since these are persistent, okay, like for example, if your database goes offline or network issue is there, or uh, there's a power surge, okay, there is a way to revive the data for each of these because these are underlying writing into files. Okay, but there is another type which is called your cache. Okay, has anyone heard about cache and cache type of files, databases? Okay, if not, look up um, Redis. Okay, I'll just give you a quick brief. What happens is like today in the modern architecture, what happens is like when you are, working. Okay, very bad drawing on my part. Sorry. Okay, so let's say um, today, I have a system, okay, which is being used by multiple users. Okay, when the user connects with the server, okay, the server has a connectivity with the database, correct? It could be your MySQL database, it could be your Oracle database, whatever it is. Okay, but when the user is requesting some data, and let's say there are multiple users requesting the same data. Think about your Amazon use case. Okay, where the Amazon in popular Amazon Prime days, or festival seasons. Okay, people are looking for the same kind of products, same kind of information. Okay, so this guy, when he will ask, okay, again the server will go back and fetch the data. Correct. Again, there is another more person added to the system. Okay, that person will again ask. Okay, again. The server will go back and fetch the data. Instead of doing this, what we also do is we have a um, you know secondary, or I would say an intermediate database, which is called the cache. Okay, so this cache will be your primary point of contact. So first, the server will look here if the data is available. Okay, if the data is not available, then the server will go here and look for the data. Okay, so why do we use cache? Because cache type of databases purely work on RAM. Okay, and these are in-memory databases. That means if you shut down your database, your data is lost. But since they are in memory, okay, and there is no hard disk involved, so there is no hard disk involved. Okay, so that way the data retrieval is very fast. Okay, like sub-millisecond retrieval. Okay, so this is another popular area that the interview can ask, like, okay, if I need to store something in memory, what kind of database should I use? You can just mention that, okay, I'll use one of the cache databases. One of the popular ones is Redis. Okay, so I don't think at your level they will go into, like, why these are so fast, and what are the access patterns, etc., etc. But just good to know that, okay, these are the databases. But there might be some questions like, okay, what are the popular databases out there? We also call them key value pair as well. Okay, so on the database side, again coming back, okay, first and foremost, what we discussed is the types. Again, in types, what is the advantage? Okay, uh, memorize some common DBs. Okay, then also, as I said, like, read about when to use MySQL or RDBMS versus NoSQL database. Okay, okay. Then the second thing is, you know um, your typical database questions. Okay, like, for example, what is a table, what is a schema, what is a join. Okay, what are indexes. Okay, what are the different types of indexes. Okay, all of these we should be very familiar with. Okay, table is where in a relational database, or in any of the databases, is where we store the data. Okay, schema is a design for your DB. Okay, joins are clubbing data from two or more tables. Okay, indexes, way for DB to organize data for fast search. Okay. These are some common, terms, uh, some common things that you should know about. Okay. Again, in join, you might find some questions. Okay. Like what is a left join? What is a right join? Okay. What is the difference between join versus inner join? Okay. So these are things that you should know about. Okay. And thirdly, these are more advanced topics, but you might you might be asked on, like, do you know what is a package? What is a procedure? What is a function? Okay. Can you name when to use what? Okay. So these are different type of things that you might be asked for. Okay. And a very common scenario would be like, they would be giving you a particular, they would be giving you a particular, table like this. Okay. That you have a particular table like, okay, which is the employee ID. You have the employee, let's say, name. Okay. And you have the employee salary. Okay. And you have employee one, two, three, and so on. So, okay. And let's say this is A, B, C. It has hundreds, 200, 400, something like that. Okay. They will ask you to write a select query. Okay. To give the top two employees with max salary. Okay. These are the things that you should be prepared for. Okay. You should also be prepared for, like, for example, the different um, uh, arithmetic functions, like, when to use count, when to use average, etc. Give me 1 minute, right? Sorry about that, guys. Yeah. So, when to use what? Okay. Sorry, and regarding this particular example, okay, the interview will try to give you different scenarios like, okay, give me top five records, give me the person's name, who is having the top salary, give me, or they might also add a department over here, okay, something like this, okay, department X, Y, Z, or something like that, okay, and they might ask you, okay, which which department has the highest number of salaries, okay, or give me a total aggregate of each department's salary obligation, okay. So these are all different sample scenarios that you might need to take care of, okay. Uh, types, tables, packages. I think we covered pretty much all of it. Okay. So these are your technical preparation so far. Okay. So as we discussed, I'll just do a quick summary again. So for your technical preparation, okay, first and foremost, the most important thing, we cannot highlight more on this, practice. Okay. Second thing is uh, summary notes. Okay. In the summary notes, what will you do? Code Java. Okay. Whatever topics we discussed. Then, oops. Okay. Maybe some file handling. Okay. And then we talk about the web. Okay. In the web, we talked about HTML, CSS, okay, JavaScript. Okay. Then we talk about the backend. Some of the common things to be prepared for is one is REST API. Okay. And the second thing that we discussed about is basically Spring Boot. Okay. And on the database side, we discussed about uh, you know RDBMS versus NoSQL. Okay. In RDBMS, again, table, join, different SQL combinations and functions that can be used. Okay. So you can have a handy note for yourself so that during or not during, before the interview, you can go through these notes and have a concise idea of the entire thing, because it is not going to be possible to cover each and every topic in detail just before your interview, right? So whenever you are preparing for the interview, these technical notes or summary notes will help you realize or memorize that, okay, these are the different components and these are going to be my answers. Okay. So invest some time, preparing these notes, making sure that they are pretty much concise and covering as much ground as possible. Okay. Okay. Then let's uh, talk about the next part. Okay. So 10:15 we will take a quick break. Okay. And 10:15 to let's say 10:30. Okay. And then we'll come back. Okay. But once we come back, okay, these are the things that we will discuss. Okay. Prepare your intro. Okay. It is very important to prepare a very good summarized version of your intro. Okay. Then the second thing is your knowledge of the company. Okay. What are the different couple of things that you should do to know about the company? Okay. Then the third thing is addressing the role. Okay. And then addressing some common questions. Okay. So these are the topics that we will go over once we return back. Okay. In the meantime, I'll take the next 15 minutes as Q&A. Okay. So whatever we have discussed in the earlier sections regarding our technical preparation, if any one of you has any questions, any doubts, suggestions, even let's discuss those. I don't think it was that self-explanatory that no one will have any questions. Okay, so please feel free to come up with questions. Okay, this is a session for you again. I think I'm repeating multiple times, but this is a session for you to make sure that you are comfortable, going into multiple interviews and highlighting your skills. Okay, so this session is for you to make sure that you guys are able to gain proper, uh, not real time or real life, but at least you can get a very close upfront understanding of how the interview process would look like and how it usually works and what are the tips and tricks. Okay? So please feel free to come up with your question. Okay, how many of you know about MVC? Have you ever heard the term called MVC? Have you heard the term three tier design? Does anyone have an idea what is called a deadlock? Anyone? Godly, Nitin, Praveen, Umesh? Yes, Praveen, go ahead. See, the interviewer will always throw some new questions that you are not prepared for. Okay. And yes, it is of course okay to be honest. Okay. That yeah, I don't know this question, but I would But the interview is also sometimes expecting you to try. Like, okay, from a common knowledge and your common experience, the interview would appreciate if you could take a try and figure out things during the session itself. Okay, so for example, if you are talking about deadlock, let's say you don't know what is deadlock. Okay, but the interviewer is asking you repeatedly the same question, like, okay, can you tell me when a deadlock happens, or tell me, what is a deadlock? Okay, so basically you try to come up with answers very close to this. Like, for example, lock means something which is stopped, okay, or closed out, okay, and dead is means it's like not working, okay. So any scenario where things are currently on hold, things cannot proceed, is a similar process. In reality, a deadlock is when multiple things, okay, let's say A is trying to do something, B is trying to do something, C is trying to do something, okay, which is again contradicting with each other, okay. So that is where a deadlock event happens, okay. So you are basically contradicting with each other's functionality, and it is not allowing the logic or program to move ahead anymore. Okay. So think of answers similar to that particular front, or try to guess. Okay, so that the interview knows that yeah, you have an analytical ability. Okay. Okay, I'll give it a minute more for any of you to ask any questions, any doubts. Since there are no questions, then I think we can take a quick recess and then come back at 10:30. Thank you, everyone.